This is basically just male Candace Owens. This is male Candace Owens. Hi, I'm Ranting Minority. Welcome back to my channel where I do social and political commentary. Today I'm responding to a video by the black conservative YouTuber Breonna Tatum. Tatum is basically Candace Owens with muscles in a way. He likes to point fingers at the black community whenever they speak out about oppression. He's been known to say that Central Park 5 were guilty, Breonna Taylor's killers were justified, and losing his temper on a live stream where black conservatives call him out on defending the killers of Ahmaud Arbery.
I told you, everybody on your live stream know you's a bitch, and when I see you, I'm whooping your ass. Everybody got it on live stream.
I like
nigga.
it.
You want to be hood, nigga? You want to be hood? You on the phone talking shit to me, and you call me saying you apologize?
Oh yeah, hot takes is an understatement. Bad takes, some may say. No one should take him seriously, yet the video full of lies we're responding to today has over 1 million views. This video titled Enough with the Anti-White Narrative. This video is pretty yikes, so I've speeded it up and cut it up so we can just address the main arguments and lies told in this video. Unlike Tatum, I'll be providing a source list in the description below or the comments below if you're watching this from Reddit. Speaking of Reddit, I made a subreddit. And you know, you can repay me by subscribing to my channel or follow me on social media down below.
Getting a notification on his EA Sports Madden game talking about Black Lives Matter and oppression of black people, which is an opinion by some. It's not verifiable, unequivocal facts, but yet they push it on young people. And then one of my good friends who happened to be white, and the funny thing is we have the same last name.
You probably share the last name because his ancestors own. No, I'm gonna go there. What I will say is businesses jumping on this Black Lives Matter trend can be a little weird, because you really don't know if they actually feel that way or are they just trying to save their business name because they know if they don't, they'll probably get canceled. Opinion by some, you mean the USSC, the Justice Department, the FBI, and most criminal justice scholars and people who actually study this topic, then yes, it is an opinion by some.
And that black people need special treatment, and you need to give us handouts, and worried about black athletes.
Who? Who is asking for special treatment? Why is asking for accountability asking for a handout? Like, there is no correlation.
Listen, man, as a black man in America, and I've been black for 33 years, I am sick of the pandering. I'm sick of the false equivalence. I'm sick of people painting the picture like I am less than in my own country.
I love how these people use their race to their advantage. Like, they will scream, I'm black, but in the same breath say, the blacks are dangerous and there's no issue with racism in America. Even funnier, he's an ex-cop, so the ex-cop is going to tell us how there's no issue in policing. That's kind of like Judy telling the Avatar gang that there's no war in Bossing Say. He says people are painting a picture that he is less than, but he's the one making videos where he implies the black community is violent, implies everything about the black community is broken, and then throws 1350 in every other video. Like, that's coming from your side, buddy.
The people that I know are racist. I don't know a racist. I've never been around racists.
I know you're lying because you're friends with Candace Owens.
It's not fair that I can have a say and I can talk about my opinions about the American flag. I can give my statements about Black Lives Matter and how ridiculous I believe their organization is. This is America. You have the freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say. Why is it that my white friends don't have that same right?
Oh, my freedom of speech. Yeah, no. Charlie Kirk had no issue speaking on Black Lives Matter, and in fact, he doubled down on his comments on Black Lives Matter. Backlash for your terrible takes isn't an attack on your freedom of speech. Just like you can say dumb things because of your freedom, people can respond to those dumb things because of their freedom. This is America, buddy. Get over it.
You say all lives matter, which is true. That includes black lives, ladies and gentlemen.
I've never seen someone approach the point, bulldoze through it, and just keep going. Like, that was almost impressive.
You get fired. They fired a guy who's a commentator, fired him because he said all lives matter in a text message.
This is really petty, but that was a tweet, not a text message. And from what the guy says, that wasn't a very surprising comment. Political opinions can get you fired. Sorry. That is something that has been a thing forever. I don't know why people are acting like it's a new thing. If majority of the country holds an opinion at this point, then chances are your opinion that is not reflective of majority of the country is going to get backlash. That's just how things work.
Protesting the death of one black man.
Protesting the death of one black man, you say. See, anyone who pays attention knows the protests aren't just about George Floyd. They're about a lot more. But if you want to bring it down to just people, it wasn't just George Floyd. People are protesting Ahmaud Arbery. People are protesting Breonna Taylor. Funny thing is, you left Ahmaud Arbery out after your last Ahmaud Arbery video went viral and you got dragged by those black conservatives and lost your temper. So I think you left his name out on purpose. And you know you said Breonna Taylor's death could be justified, so you probably didn't want to mention that either. So you just narrowed it down to the easiest target, which will be the guy with the criminal record.
Who happened to be an extreme criminal. Does that mean he deserved to die? No, it doesn't. The police officer need to be taken to task as well. But he wasn't a Martin Luther King. He wasn't Jesus Christ. He wasn't many black people that have lost their lives that didn't get arrested and sent to jail 9 times, that didn't do a home invasion where they pulled a gun on a pregnant woman and pistol whipped her.
Nothing in the courtroom document suggests she was pregnant at the time of the robbery.
That wasn't high on methamphetamine and fentanyl and resisting arrest at the time of his death.
It's an exaggeration of the scientific evidence to claim Floyd was high on meth before police choked him, though his bloodstream did test positive for buds. So basically he was not high on meth when that happened. Also, at which point in those 8 minutes did he resist arrest?
There was plenty black people who live, who are unjustifiably killed, and they don't even get a t-shirt. Y'all done killed 9 black people in these riots and protests.
6 of those were not related to protests, and I'm pretty sure one of them was by the cops.
Chicago, Illinois, the war zone of the United States of America. Last weekend, 80 plus shootings. 25 black people died. 2 of those black people that I know of, because they ain't gonna never say their name, know how to handle their anger. They out here shooting people and acting a fool, and nobody's holding them accountable.
Okay, people in Chicago don't just love their crime buddy. There's efforts being made to try to find these people. Chicago business owners, for example, pulled together about $25,000 to find the killers of this young girl.
A group of people usually running businesses are handing out flyers in Inglewood this afternoon. They want the killer of 1-year-old Sincere Gaston off the street.
Something has to be done. We are tired, fed up as it relates to the gun violence.
To help loosen lips, the group has put up $25,000 in reward money for information leading to an arrest and charges. They put up the same amount for the killer of 3-year-old Micaiah James. He was shot and killed last weekend.
The 25,000 won't get you. Okay, we're gonna put another 25. So that's 50,000 we putting up. If 50 won't get you, we're gonna put up another 25. If that 75 don't get you, we're gonna put up 100. So you telling me with $100,000 reward, nobody's gonna say nothing? We have it on hand in cash. Call the tip hotline. I will personally bring you this money in your hand.
Chicago's crime and gang violence is very complicated, and it goes all the way back to damn near the 1800s, and I can get into that later, but it's not just black people violent, therefore no police brutality exists.
And I don't know if will they catch the people who did this? Are they gonna get justice? Probably not. 83% of the homicides are unsolved in Chicago, Illinois.
I like how he brings up an issue with policing in his dunk on a group that is speaking out about issues in policing. You know, it's almost as if when you focus most of your training on firearms and not, you know, training people to actually solve crimes, then crimes don't get solved as much. It's almost as if police need some type of reconstruction, or maybe their funding should be put different places or something. I wish there was a name for that.
2019, there was only 9 unarmed black people who were shot by police in 2019.
That was just a lie. It was actually between 14 and 25 unarmed.
Let's give you more stats. Chicago, Illinois, last year in 2019, 192 black people were murdered. How many black people were murdered by police in Chicago in 2019? And I'm counting the people who are unarmed. Because if you got a gun, I don't know what to tell you. Nobody was killed by the police in 2019 in Chicago who were unarmed.
So his entire argument is built on the rate of violent crime should, you know, explain a police violence, but that's not supported by pretty much anywhere. And Orlando had relatively low crime rates and high rates of police violence.
Not one black person. 2020, there is already 191 people, black people, that have been murdered this year in Chicago. How many police officers have killed a black man in Chicago, Illinois this year, unarmed? 0.
Also have to keep in mind, reporting from police is completely voluntary. There's nothing stopping them from not reporting at all or reporting inaccurately. An example of people being left out of these statistics would be Eric Garner and Tamir Rice. Also, Chicago's annual killing rate is pretty low, or they report it as pretty low. There's about There's about an average rate of about 4 a year. So we take that into mind, and also keep in mind that these protests started. A cop is probably going to be more hesitant about killing an unarmed black guy during all this protesting. And it's not even the end of the year yet. We're like halfway through the year, buddy.
Let me give you solutions. The solution is you need to stop voting for politicians who put in policies that destroy your community. All of these cities that are riddled with crime, riddled with mass death, mass incarceration, police misconduct, are Democratic-run states.
Now, there is evidence that says more policing will cut down crime, and that is something we know we can address. However, there's also evidence that says funding public education, healthcare, and housing can also reduce gang violence and crime. The terrorist intervention programs, for example, shows results in cities like Boston where their shootings fell down by 27%.
These places are run by all black people. The worst places on earth to be a black man is in Democratic-run cities. If you don't believe me, go look it up.
Brings up results of systemic racism and oppression in his video against systemic racism and oppression. That is fucking gold.
Name something that Nancy Pelosi's done except take a knee for 9 minutes in a hallway for one black man. Name legislation. Pick one. Nothing. They have done nothing.
It's funny you mentioned that little photo op where they took a knee in those African garbs, because in that same day she introduced a police bill that would ban chokeholds and no-knock warrants. So in that same thing you're dunking on, saying she has done nothing, she actually was doing something that day. That's hilarious.
Around and not protect yourself. Now you got a kid and you ain't got no job. And now you done put yourself at a deficit. Ain't nobody told you to do that. The white man didn't have his hand on your back, but you blaming everybody else. Nobody told you to smoke weed.
Now he's just going on a tangent about some stereotypical black person he has in his head. I like that he mentions smoking weed, because I guess he's pointing out that if you go to jail for drug use, then it's completely your fault because you use a drug, which, sure, arguable, I guess. But he completely leaves out that white people and black people use drugs at the same rate, yet black people are going to jail at a higher rate than white people.
The reason why I'm winning is because I'm not sitting around worried about white people. I'm not sitting around trying to guess who is racist and who is not.
The reason why you're winning is because you sold your soul to the right to be a token.
I don't care. If this country was so racist, then why do African immigrants do much better than black Africans who live here, or African Americans who were born and raised in the United States of America? It's culture, ladies and gentlemen. One of the greatest minorities in the United States of America are Asians. Why are they doing better than white people? It's culture, ladies and gentlemen.
The groups you're mentioning are also one of the most educated groups in America. So with education comes more money, or at least that's the idea they feed to us. And also, can we keep in mind moving to America is not cheap. If you have money to move to America legally, then you probably already have somewhat of a decent income.
You can't tell me anything about the stock market. You can't tell me anything about investing. You can't tell me the last book you read. But you can tell me who's in the Final Four. You can tell me who's going to the Super Bowl. You can tell me the stats of every NBA player, NFL player, and MLB player.
Hi, me from the future. For the record, I couldn't tell you any of those things because I don't watch sports very much, so yeah. And the last book I read was How Nonviolence Protects the State. I don't understand why he thinks everyone who supports Black Lives Matter is like a basketball fan, apparently.
The slave owner was a black man, Anthony Johnson, in the 1600s. First legal slave owner. Are you mad at him? Do you want reparations from those black people?
He mentions Anthony Johnson because I googled that right when he said that, and the first thing that pops up is white supremacist groups who use this story to try to push an agenda. Anthony Johnson was not the first legal slave owner in America. He was one of the first to have his lifetime ownership of his servant legally sanctioned by court. You see, what he's trying to do with this argument is try to undermine the racial component of slavery and make it seem like, oh, everyone was doing it, they just needed money to do it. But that's not really the case. And you can tell racism was still a very big part of this in the end of his story. January of that same year, a jury decided the land Johnson left behind could be seized by the government because he was a Negro and by consequence an alien. If I remember correctly, was a indentured servant who gained his freedom. So he was able to own property, and I guess he could own a slave. But that was also very uncommon, and he wasn't the first to do it.
Every black person wasn't a slave. Very simple. There were indentured servants in the North. Slavery in the North was illegal. Legal slavery was in the Democratic South, the Democratic Party. Learn your history.
Neighborhoods you keep mentioning in Chicago were affected by past issues with racism and lending and gang violence and a lot of shit. For example, and city officials turned their backs on aiding the community and instead redlined these areas for reasons of the area having too many black residents. A thing called block busting became a thing. The term block busting first surfaced in the 1950s and described as a shady real estate practice that actually took advantage of racism and cultural fears. In definition, block busting is when a real estate agent hires agent provocateurs, which were impoverished African Americans that wanted to make a few bucks. After hiring the agents, provocateurs and real estate agents would have the family look outside the window and see anything from a black woman pushing a stroller to groups of black youths fighting in the streets and making a white family terrified. Basically, in the 1950s, these guys would go into these communities and scare white families away by saying, oh my god, the black people are here now, and they would pretty much sell their homes at low rates. This is called white flight, and it pretty much can devastate those communities when a lot of the businesses that were providing income and jobs to those neighborhoods were pretty much gone once they scared all the white people away, leaving it to be impoverished. Instead of aiding these communities, the city officials just turned their back on them and redlined them. So basically they just warned people that these areas were bad so nobody white would move there, but they wouldn't do anything to help these areas. Okay, I can't take any more of this. That was a very hard video to watch. It's probably really long, so thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out my other content and check out the playlist down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. May your vibes be Joe.